The smell of engine oil and hot metal still clung to my uniform as I pulled into the driveway. 12 hours at the shop, and all I wanted was to hit the garage opener and see my 2067 Camaro SS gleaming like a summer lake. The garage door groaned upward, and there it was, chrome so bright it could blind a pilot, and paint so deep and orange it looked like you could dive right into it. I was smiling when, "Someone call 911. He's stealing my car." Brenda, HOA president. Neighbor. Karen 2.0, charging across the lawn like a pit bull off its leash, phone glued to her ear, yelling into the speaker, "Yes, there's a black man stealing my car right now. Send everyone." And there I stood, keys in hand, in my own garage, wondering, how did I just become a suspect in stealing myself in under a minute? Before you think I'm the kind of hot-headed guy who would fire back right there in the driveway, let me give you a little context so you understand why this was not some cute misunderstanding. I'm Marcus, a third-generation mechanic. My granddad taught my dad taught me. For 60 years, my family's kept this whole town running smoother than a late-night jazz record. Last spring, when my marriage officially fired up for the last time and rolled into the scrapyard, I took what I had left and bought a house in Willowbrook Estates. Sounds fancy, right up until you meet the HOA. The rule book's longer than the Constitution. Mailboxes have to match. Grass taller than 2.5 inches is a federal offense. And reigning over this little kingdom? Brenda Wilson, 3-term HOA president. Blonde highlights, seemingly immune to gravity, nails so long they could knock on the gates of hell. She's got one superpower: turning paperwork into a weapon. And if you think that stolen car accusation was just spur of the moment, sorry, that was just the opening shot. 3 minutes after Brenda's scream, my driveway looked like a Las Vegas light show. 4 patrol cars, lights flashing like they were taking down an armed bank robber. Neighbors pulled back their curtains, peeking out like they'd scored free tickets to the movies. Leading the pack was Officer Rodriguez's kind eyes, the kind that said, "I've seen every flavor of crazy this neighborhood has to offer." Next to him was Officer Morgan, built like he could bench press the squad car itself. Rodriguez spoke first. "Evening, sir. We got a report about a stolen vehicle." I pointed at the Camaro in the garage. "Stolen vehicle, officer? This is my house, my garage, and my car. Saying I stole this is like saying I stole my own refrigerator." But Brenda was already charging in, jabbing a finger in my face. "That's him. I bought that Camaro yesterday for $45,000. I almost spit out my coffee. "Lady, I bought that rusted corpse for about the price of a high-end lawnmower." I pulled out my phone and showed Rodriguez the full restoration album, every bolt, every coat of paint. Then I handed over a binder thick as a phone book. DMV registration, insurance, and the bill of sale from a 93-year-old widow. Rodriguez nodded, confirmed everything. Brenda's face turned red as she stepped back, but her eyes said it all. Round 1 was hers to lose, but the fight wasn't over. If you think Brenda felt even a shred of shame after getting flipped on by the cops, welcome to the world of HOA Karens, where common sense is dead and drama is a renewable energy source. The next morning I got a violation notice. Unauthorized commercial vehicle storage, $200 fine, 48 hours to comply. The so-called offender? My Ford Transit van, bought 3 years before the new rule even existed. In other words, completely legal. Brenda clearly didn't care. Then came more. An oil stain on the driveway. I scrub it every month, cleaner than most restaurant tables. A noxious odor from the garage. WD-40 and axle grease, the cologne of mechanics, and a noise violation during approved working hours. So I installed cameras around the house. 2 days later, the footage showed Brenda pressing her phone against my garage window, recording inside. One step further, and she'd be demanding to inspect my fridge for grass taller than 2 inches. But the hardest hit came on a Friday night. I opened the garage and froze. The Camaro's glass had a long scratch, the gas cap was popped open, and a sweet, gritty smell of gasoline mixed with sugar hit me in the face. For car people, pouring sugar into a fuel tank is the fastest way to kill an engine short of a sledgehammer. The camera caught Brenda in a black hoodie, crouched by the gas cap. I called the police, but she'd already called first, claiming I was threatening her life as she walked past. That's when I knew this wasn't just a bad neighbor. This was a campaign to get rid of me, and she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. To take down an HOA Karen, you can't just rely on cameras and a couple of snappy rebuttal letters. You have to dig into her lair. And lucky for me, this lair left tracks at the county courthouse. On my lunch break, I headed to the records room, the kind of place where the smell of 3-day-old coffee mixes with paper dust from the Nixon era. 3 hours of digging. And I hit the jackpot. The HOA financial reports. $15,000 to B&B Property Solutions. No services listed. $8,500 to Brenda's Best Gardens. Hadn't grown so much as a daisy. $12,000 to Wilson and Associates Legal Services, run by Brenda's ex-husband. 3 companies, 1 address, Brenda's house. Then I found the real racket. Pick a target, flood them with bogus fines, smear them online, pressure them into selling cheap. Then Brenda uses her realtor license to sell to investors and pocket double commission. 3 families had already been run out this way. And the plot twist? Brenda's own house was in foreclosure. She owed the HOA. She ran $23,000, plus back taxes, plus legal fees. Court date for the foreclosure, 3 weeks away. In that moment, everything clicked into place, like a freshly built V8. This wasn't a war over engine noise. This was a desperate Karen, willing to do anything to survive. And I had just found the way to end her little game. That night, Tom's garage wasn't a place for wrenching on cars or sipping beer anymore. It had turned into an emergency war room, an old wooden table, a few boxes of donuts, and 4 faces Brenda would probably see in her nightmares. Sarah, a forensic accountant who could track dirty money faster than a bloodhound chasing a hot dog. Mike, a retired attorney, with a gentle smile but a history of dismantling entire corporations. Linda, a high school teacher whose schedule was tighter than a space launch countdown. And Carlos, a construction vet who knew every loophole in the building code like the back of his hand. Tom kicked it off, voice like a battle drum. From here on, we play big. We mapped it out, like writing the script for a revenge thriller, cameras across the neighborhood, audits to federal standards, digging into every expense and unleashing the information on the community. Looking around that table, I realized 6 weeks ago I was just a quiet mechanic. Now I was leading an HOA strike team, and the prey had no idea the wolves were already closing in. When a trap is tight enough, you don't have to chase the prey. You just stand back and watch it walk in. And Brenda strutted in like she was on a runway. Wednesday night, Carlos's camera caught the suburban ninja making her return. Black hoodie, that awkward, over-exaggerated sneak walk you only see from people who've never actually done anything illegal before, crouching by my driveway, arranging brand new Home Depot motor oil cans behind my garage. The motion light kicked on, catching everything from the gravity-defying blonde highlights to the BMW license plate. Next morning, code enforcement showed up. I played the video. The inspector watched for a moment, then shook his head. Fresh motor oil doesn't even violate code, and she left the price stickers on. Amateur hour. But Brenda wasn't out of tricks. Friday, she caught Carlos installing cameras for Linda and slipped him a thick envelope. $2,000 if you stop and tell people Marcus is harassing you. Carlos didn't even look up, just kept driving screws into the mount and recorded the whole thing. Sunday, 2:47 a.m. Brenda called 911. The man at number 14 is threatening me with a weapon. The cops arrived to find me in a tank top, hands covered in motor oil, with 3 witnesses helping me swap a transmission. Officer Morgan just looked at Brenda. "Ma'am, this is your 4th false report in 2 weeks. You're looking at charges." And then came the peak. Tuesday, 2:33 a.m. Brenda broke into the HOA office, shoving papers into a shredder like she was competing for fastest document destruction in America. Alarm blaring. Cameras rolling when Officer Rodriguez walked in. "Ma'am, step away from the shredder." The final round had started, and this time, there was no one Brenda could call to save her. Court day. The county courthouse was packed like a free concert. Neighbors filled every seat, a few leaning against the walls, everyone waiting to see the HOA queen fall. Brenda walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit, ironically, the exact shade of Hugger orange on my Camaro. Only difference was, one stood for freedom, the other for losing it. When the judge asked if anyone wished to speak, I stood. This story started when my neighbor called 911 and claimed I was stealing my own car. But it was never just about a car. It was about power, intimidation, and the theft of peace of mind. Sarah presented the audit findings, Mike broke down the legal violations, and Linda spoke about the damage done to the community. Brenda tried to muster tears. I only wanted to protect the neighborhood. The room went dead silent, the kind of silence that says, "You really going with that?" The judge banged the gavel. 4 years in prison, restitution of $112,000, and 5 years probation. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was the sound of an entire community getting its freedom back. 6 months after the trial, Willowbrook Estates was a different place. No more violation notices fluttering around like autumn leaves. No more tension hanging over perfectly trimmed lawns. Instead, there was the smell of Saturday morning barbecue, the sound of kids laughing, and the hum of lawnmowers. But this time, it was the sound of freedom. The new HOA, Tom as president, Sarah managing the funds, Mike handling legal matters, ran things like normal human beings, transparent reports, meetings announced in advance, and violations only with actual proof. The patch of land behind the clubhouse, once stamped restricted use, was now a community garden, with Linda running it like she was leading NASA's tomato program. And Brenda? Clara told me she was folding prison sheets for 60 cents an hour and learning how to live with a cellmate who'd once committed armed robbery. I started a scholarship fund for aspiring mechanics, using the restitution money Brenda had to pay. The Camaro still sat in my garage, and every Sunday I drove it to a car show and told this story. One time, Tom stopped by and grinned. If Brenda wasn't in prison, I closed the garage door. Yeah, she'd have to call from inside, and I'm pretty sure in there, nobody cares about mailbox color.